Okay, so we're doing something a little bit different today. I figured I'd go back and play BMX Streets just to see how different the physics feel compared to the way they are in Mashbox. So I've literally got Streets open and Mashbox open at the same time so I can switch between the two. And it's been a long time since I played Streets, if I'm going to be honest with you. This is the regular or kind of default version of the game, not the experimental build that Mash worked on a bit after. So this is basically the game at its most kind of basic, I guess, or close to how it was on release. And already, the way it feels, I've actually forgotten how weird it feels now to play it like this. Like, actually, the transition stuff feels pretty good. Like the flips and things like that. You're never going to get things looking this nice in Mashbox, I don't think. Well, yeah, it's bizarre how different it feels. It's especially for just on flat ground and things like this. It feels quite weighty. Also a bit sluggish. Like there's a bit of a delay between everything you do. Probably because I've got both open at the same time. Things may slow down a little bit, but putting that aside, I think I may have mods on, which will prevent bailing, maybe? I can't remember. Yeah, you can do tricks on flat. I don't know if it conveys in watching it, but the way it feels, everything's so sluggish. Like there's a lack of snap to everything. I don't know, it is what it is in its own sense, but especially being so used to Mashbox now for a while, this feels really different. Okay, let's have a look at Mashbox. So in comparison, we're in the same area in Mashbox. And immediately, the sensitivity and just kind of speed of everything is far different. I think a lot of the transition stuff, that may be a thing of personal taste. Like, I do prefer elements of Streets when it comes to that stuff, especially if you want to do flares and things. Because yeah, they look like that. But for more technical style tricks, this definitely feels a lot more responsive. Also feels like you just kind of have more options to do things in a way that feels nice. Actually, yeah, we're going to have to test out the grinds as well. Streets had some grind things which felt better, I would say. It's going to be a bit of both, I think. Both have their own strengths. But lining them up, and again, I'm not sure if this conveys through the video, but just the responsiveness of how everything works feels wild here. It's that everything's been sped up, almost, or like there's double the frame rate or something. I know it's essentially the same thing. In terms of responsiveness, I would definitely say Mashbox is better. That's one thing Streets will do better, from what I remember. Like locking into grinds. Especially if you have the assist on to do like fakey, whatever type of grinds. Those tend to work pretty well from what I remember. You could like combo grinds together fairly well. See if we can get a crook. You lift up. You do get some of the weird magnet stuff though, which can be a little bit off-putting. Let's try. Whoa, that was not intended. You just see though, like getting back up to speed again. It feels like everything's in treacle or something. Syrup. You're like wading through some heavy something to try and get everything going. Definitely a thing of taste, maybe. People prefer the weight. Actually, I should probably do another comparison with Pipe as well. Because that had weight to it, but that didn't feel too sluggish to me back in the day. Kind of had the right amount of weight to it. Also, another thing I noticed, whips. I think I prefer the new animation for those. Maybe. Alright, let's go back to Mashbox. Yeah, I think I prefer the whip animations now. You got the Whopper and the regular tail whip animations. Did you have both in Streets? This definitely feels pretty nice, I would say. We're going to have a bit of a challenge comboing grinds together this way. Especially, maybe you can do it with a small hop. Oh yeah, you can do it. I haven't really practiced them in a while because I kind of assumed they weren't working that well. And also, with Mashbox, you have the ability to stall, which is one thing BMX Streets never really had. Like, it just did not react very well to that sort of thing. You'd go up against a ledge and you'd either go on top of it or you'd just sort of like wall ride at the bottom. Tricks like that as well work a lot better now. Feels like you can flow a bit better. There's a bit more speed. Flow is maybe the nice way to put it. That feeling I mentioned before, being like riding through sludge or something. You definitely don't get that here. And you feel like you're flowing around fairly well. Oh yeah, we've got to try G-turns, manuals, nose manuals, those sort of things. Right now, I would say these feel pretty good. Let's maybe do something on top of this. Yeah. Still maybe a work in progress, but that feels fairly good. Let's give it a go in BMX Streets. In BMX Streets, yeah, there was a bit of an issue with these sort of tricks. It would work, but you'd tap down or you'd start leaning over and stuff like that. I think some of that got fixed to a degree in the experimental build, but that was also a bit of a weird work in progress. You can just kind of like hit the back tire down and pivot out of things. So it can work to a degree, but again, you got that kind of sluggish feel to everything. We'll also try a G-turn off this. Okay. Getting used to both sets of physics at the same time is a bit of a challenge. Yeah, you notice how it just doesn't quite work together? So one of my favourite things to do in Mashbox right now is these sort of stalls. It's actually a pretty annoying object to try and stall on, actually. Should probably do it on something else. But yeah, you see how I'm just pretty much getting those first try without having to really put in a lot of effort. Also, the effects of pumping is much more significant here. Like, you see his body reacting, you're getting more speed. Especially on, like, going up things. Okay, let's get out. We're not doing that bit. Bit of a weird example, but things like that, you can just go up to this ledge, tap it, and then keep going into a trick like that. That's something I always wanted to do in these sort of games, like figure out ways of doing really advanced or complicated tech. Stall, grind, manual combinations and stuff like that. I remember trying this for a long time and I don't think it'll ever work. Well, it can, if you're lucky. You just need to get the speed exactly perfect, but because everything feels so floaty or strange, you never know where you're going to land, really. You can see how it's kind of hard to predict in terms of the way... Ooh. Smiths and Feebles are probably better than double pegs when it comes to this sort of thing. I don't think we're going to get a tooth. Or an ice pick. Yeah, as you can see, like when I was in Mashbox, I pretty much got it in one go. Here, you got to keep trying over and over, and you maybe get something. So just in terms of flying around a park, you're going to struggle a little bit. This was another thing as well. You had to kind of balance in those manuals, which doesn't feel too bad. Oh, I locked into a grind. Having a lot of the magnet things removed and then put in later is definitely a big advantage, I think. The way this feels is there's loads of things pulling you around all over the place. So if you want a specific trick, you may not get it. So let's try like a fakey manual. He's rotating a lot. Could he not do them straight very well? Oh, he can, but you do have to fight it a bit. So actually, that's sort of realistic. Because you do need to kind of maintain direction the whole time until he falls over. Oof. How will he react to going down this? I suppose if you balance it just right, you can figure those out. So especially for the downslope, I kind of lowered the angle a bit and it got us through it pretty good. In comparison, he's actually fairly static. I don't think animations have been included for these. But yeah, you could just do this infinitely and you're going in a straight line. Nose bannies as well. Pretty much unrelated to the angle. You just sort of stay locked. Which doesn't look as good as BMX Streets, I would say. But I hope some of this gets some animation. Because originally he did have just some sort of balancing animation. Here you try and like finesse it with the right stick. But he's not really balancing, you're just sort of wobbling the guy. So it doesn't really look like you're attempting to balance so much. His body parts aren't moving, it's just the angle and that's it. Same for these. But you do get much more consistent G-turns, which is nice. And there you go. It was just kind of like a quick little attempt at comparing both. I know this is only one version of BMX Streets. There's the experimental build as well, which felt different in its own way. So I could maybe do a comparison. There's tons of different comparisons actually. Base BMX Streets with the experimental BMX Streets. Comparing those to this. Getting pipe in there as well. I was thinking at some point of doing like comparisons of tricks. So lining up all the different versions of the game. Doing tail whips in each of them. Doing bars. Whatever you can think of. Different grinds. And have people vote which they think is the best looking out of all of them. Because I think we'd have a bunch of different opinions depending on your style and what you like to do. But yeah, that can be a bit more in the future when we kind of know what's going on with this. We kind of see the game in its final form, I guess. What the hell was that? So yeah, let me know what you'd like to see, because I think we could do a lot of stuff related to this. Comparisons, different ways of looking at how it's evolved, what could be improved, what could be brought back from BMX Streets, things like that. Yeah. That's about it, I think. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.